school is useless. If you spend more than 5 minutes on the internet, you will hear this phrase. It is usually shouted by a 19-year-old finance influencer trying to sell you a dropshipping course from a rented sports car. They tell you that the education system is a scam, that it is entirely broken. But let's apply some basic cold logic to this premise. If the education system is truly, fundamentally useless, why does every industrialized nation on earth legally force its citizens to participate in it for over a decade? Governments do not spend trillions of dollars sustaining useless systems. Something doesn't add up. The system isn't broken. It is doing exactly what it was engineered to do. Pull up a chair. The veil is lifting. By the end of this video, you are going to realize that the school system is not a scam. It is simply the most effective psychological behavior modification program ever deployed on the human race. To understand the architecture of your childhood, we have to rewind to the early 1800s. 200 years ago, global public education did not exist. The vast majority of the human population was illiterate. There was no standardized curriculum, no bells, no grade levels. Then a nation called Prussia suffered a catastrophic military defeat against Napoleon. The Prussian elite realized something terrifying. Their soldiers were disorganized and their society was too independent to follow complex military orders. So they made a ruthless, highly calculated decision. They invented the concept of mandatory, state-controlled public education. But this system was built on a psychological tug-of-war between two competing philosophers. On one side, you had Wilhelm von Humboldt, who believed school should be an intellectual utopia designed to free the mind. On the other side, you had Johann Gottlieb Fichte, who argued that school should be a psychological forge. Fichte wanted to train citizens to be predictable, obedient, and disciplined enough to follow systems without questioning authority. Take a wild guess which philosophy the government preferred. They combined them, creating a paradox. They built a system that claimed to champion creativity, but ran on the software of absolute obedience. It wasn't built to produce geniuses. It was explicitly built to produce a compliant, standardized working class. Fast forward to the modern era and look at the physical mechanics of your daily school experience. A loud bell rings. You move to a designated station, you sit in rows, you listen to a supervisor, you memorize raw data, you repeat it on a standardized test. A loud bell rings again. You do this for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. This is not an educational environment. This is an industrial factory floor. John Taylor Gatto, New York State Teacher of the Year, realized this after 30 years. He stated that school teaches behavior. It teaches you to wait for physical permission to speak. It teaches you to wait for a bell to dictate your bodily autonomy. It teaches you that your intrinsic human value is perfectly equal to a standardized letter grade. NASA commissioned a test to measure creative genius. 98% of 5-year-olds scored in the genius category. By the time they reached adulthood, only 2% retained their creative genius. We had it systematically trained out of us. At this point, you are probably thinking, alright, the influencers were right. School is a dystopian prison and I should drop out. Not so fast, because if we are going to be objective analysts, we have to look at the uncomfortable counter data. The implementation of the Prussian model is directly correlated with the greatest explosion of human prosperity in history. Mandatory schooling literally lifted hundreds of millions of human beings out of agrarian poverty and disease. The fatal flaw isn't that the system is useless. The fatal flaw is our modern expectation of it. We are looking at a hammer, and we are furious that it cannot connect to the Wi-Fi. The system is not broken. It is a perfectly functioning 19th century compliance engine. The problem is you live in the 21st century. School is a tool. It is an industrial scaffolding designed to give you a structural baseline. That is the flaw. Right now, in your pocket, you possess a device that gives you unrestricted access to more knowledge than any emperor in history. The question isn't whether school is broken. The question is whether you are entirely dependent on it to build your mind. If you take absolute sovereign control over your own self-education, outside of those walls, that is when you become dangerous. You have to extract what is useful from the system and build the rest of the empire yourself. But that is just my analysis. Now it is your turn to step up to the chalkboard. Drop your stories in the comments below. Until next time, keep the veil lifted.